And joining us live on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, Colin Thompson. You've heard him throughout the year on Countdown to Kickoff on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. In training camp with the Vipers of the XFL. I just like the name. I don't really, think that, I don't really, honestly, Colin, I'm less about the colors, about the name, but I do like the fact that you're on the Vipers because it's a cool name. I know you're down in Houston. How is the XFL life treating you?
It's been great. We were in minicamp for, and again, Josh, thanks for having me on, man. I love coming on your show. But the XFL life's been wonderful. We had a little minicamp in December before the holiday, and then about a 2-week break, and we're just coming back now. But everything's been first class. Vince McMahon's got his name all over this one from the WWE. A lot of people know him from there. And it's, like I said, first class environment. You can't beat it when it comes to playing minor league football. So I'm excited to get going with camp. We have a great staff with Coach Mark Trestman and a great group of guys. Like I said, we start here today, and we go on a run for about 2 weeks. And then we'll be back in Tampa, and then we open our first game up in New York, up with the Giants play against the New York Guardians February 9th, the week after the Super Bowl.
And how has this version of Mark Trestman been? I know a lot of people were curious about the fact that this is a guy who, CFL, NFL, he's been in a lot of coaching stops. So what has he been like for you?
Wow, he's the most interesting coach I've ever had, and I mean that with the utmost respect. He is a true players coach. He genuinely wants to get to know you. He genuinely wants the players to get to know each other, the trust, the emphasis on trusting each other, getting to know each other, making periods of the day for us to sit down and actually eat together. He wants to know if our breaks are long enough for us to get out to practice, is food digested. Like, he covers all the bases. He's a true players coach, a genuine guy, and I love his offense. He's an offensive mind. Talking to Kyle Long and a couple of my buddies that I play with the Bears. Kyle Long was drafted by Mark Trestman before the John Fox era, right after the Lovie Smith era there in Chicago, and Kyle loved him. Jay Cutler was a Pro Bowl underneath of him. So I love Coach Trestman. I love the staff he's put together. It's a bunch of guys that have come out of the CFL but have had a ton of NFL experience, a ton of college experience. So it's a great league. I'm really excited. It's a combination of a lot of guys that played in the AAF that folded, obviously, last year that I played in with the Birmingham Iron, and then a combination of some CFL talent and some guys that just wanted a fresh start and left the NFL because they weren't getting the opportunity they wanted. And now they're getting another shot and getting a real shot in the XFL for some playing time. Well,
speaking of the NFL, you led me right into where I wanted to go with you, because you were in the NFL and you were in different situations in different places. And in Philadelphia here, everyone loves Greg Ward, Boston Scott. People, Deontay Burnett basically came off the street. The wide receiver Davis in the practice squad. Talk to us about how can a guy who was on the practice squad go from just basically being part of the game plan each week to having so much success for a team like the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, it's a credit to those individuals. I've been in that situation before. I was with the New York Giants, had emergency appendectomy in the preseason, and then I was on the couch, quote unquote, that's what they say, for about 12 weeks. That's 12 weeks out of football. No NFL contact, nothing. A couple workouts here and there, but nothing serious. The Chicago Bears called when Zach Miller went down against New Orleans Saints a couple of years ago, that devastating leg injury. And I was lucky enough that I worked hard, went to Temple every day, took the train down there and worked hard, got in shape, stayed in shape, kept my mind sharp with the football stuff, and then went and made the practice squad. Well, that's the first step. Now you have to learn the playbook, learn the special teams, carve out a role. I never was activated. So for these guys to get activated off the practice roster from going, really, they're giving reps for the first team defense. Greg Ward, he's the number one receiver. Or Greg Ward, if you're playing Lamar Jackson, Greg Ward is, he is the quarterback showing that speed. So it's a testament to those guys coming off the street, staying in shape, pure just guys that love football to be able to do it. But I'm a Greg Ward fan. I played against Greg a ton in college in Houston when I played at Temple. And he's a stud. To paint a picture of what he's been through, whole year with the Eagles last year on the practice squad. That season ended right when the Eagles lost to beat the Bears. They went on the next week. So they were playing like middle of January. He then leaves the Eagles. Then he goes to the AAF, no time off, goes to training camp with the AAF, goes with the San Antonio team, a very talented San Antonio team that I played against in Birmingham, plays the entire year in the AAF, and then goes right back to the Eagles. I mean, that is no time off in a sport that's physically grueling, mentally grueling. So that's a credit to Greg. He used to work so hard. He's averaging over right around 7 targets a game. That's pretty impressive for a practice squad guy, no matter what the injuries are. So credit to him, credit to Scott, credit to the guys that came up, because really what it comes down to, and I know this is a long-winded question, but I wanted to shed some of my light on it, that it's those guys one-on-one by themselves working when no one's around, no one's paying for your training. It's a credit to them, and that's why they're doing so well, and that's why the Eagles are where they are today.
How much credit do you give the Eagles for having some of these guys on the practice squad and recognizing their talent, and then to bring them up? Because we know that they brought in Jordan Matthews and Jay Ajayi before they ever gave the practice squad guys a chance. So do we at least give the Eagles some credit to say they saw something in these guys and they kept them on the practice squad?
No question. There's credit all around. There's a credit, like they talked about, to the backup quarterbacks. Josh McGowan talked about this week, is their job is to get these guys ready to play because Carson's got other things to worry about. And Howie's job and the people in the front office of the Eagles is to make the best practice squad, to help the team get better, to help these guys, maybe they're potential players, guys that are in waiting to move up to the big club. Well, now, because of injuries and because there's not a lot of guys on the street, you've seen what Seattle did with Marshawn Lynch. They're pretty much pulling him out of the tailgate parking lot of the Raiders game and onto the field in Seattle. So they were forced their hand to bring him up. Credit to them for doing that and trusting them. And it's really on the guys, like I said, to go and execute and be ready to go. Be confident, because these games are happening, and these practice squad guys, like myself, we're in street clothes on the sideline. We have no. There's no responsibility on game day other than watch the game.
Yeah, speaking of the
go in and execute. I'm sorry, Josh, and have confidence. It's on those guys, but it takes everybody. And kudos to the Eagles for building that practice squad and those guys coming up and doing so well.
Yeah, speaking of the Seahawks, I feel like one of the things that's overlooked in this situation is that the Eagles' depth behind the guys who have gone down is much better than the Seahawks. We heard the silly story on Sunday Night Football that apparently, Marshawn Lynch was staying in football contact shape by training in mixed martial arts and getting punched and kicked, which, look, I'm an MMA guy, but even that's not the same as football contact. Like, if his name wasn't Marshawn Lynch, we would just laugh it off. I feel like there's something to be said for the fact that guys like Greg Ward, Boston Scott, or even Vaitai coming in for Lane Johnson, these guys are a higher caliber quality of player, work ethic, and talent than what the Seahawks are having to lean on right now.
Well, two things. One, the Marshawn Lynch situation, honestly, Josh, it is so hard to mimic getting hit. So if you're going to get hit at all, that's probably the best way to go about it. Get hit, take a beating a little bit. You're going to callous your body because it's so hard to lift, run, catch footballs. Great, I'm doing all that. But then also go in and be able to take a hit, have balance. So whatever works for him. But I get what you're saying. It's nothing like football, getting hit by a helmet or whatever it may be, 100% true. When it comes to the depth, beginning of this year, middle of this year with the Eagles, when guys started getting hurt, everyone's criticizing Howie Roseman for not having depth, and I didn't really understand it. If any other team had these injuries, this would never happen. I mean, this success would never happen. And key positions, right tackle, now right guard. And these are two all-pro guys, maybe the best right side of football ever, starting with an all-pro center. I mean, it's one of the best offensive lines assembled in a very, very long time. And now they have replacements coming in like Vaitai, and they haven't lost a beat. They've gotten better. They've won games. Their quarterback's back on track. So it's super impressive to me. I think they've had a ton of depth. Defensively, they don't have a ton of depth. They lost a ton of guys this year. So it's impressive. It really is. And that's a credit to the front office. But Doug Peterson putting the game plans together for his team to be successful no matter who's in the game. There's something to be said about that, too, for Doug.
Colin Thompson joining us at Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. You can follow him in as his XFL career is going on right now at Colin Thompson TU. Also, he's joined Counting the Kickoff, Sports Bash with Mike Kelce. You've heard him all over here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned the line, and I had brought this up earlier this week. I think the guy who's most important to the Eagles' success the last 3 years is Jason Kelce. He's the only guy on that line who has started every game the last 3 years. He's the only guy who is there through all the shuffling of injuries or guys being swapped in and out on that offensive line. He's dealt with 2 different quarterbacks. Actually, if you go back to 2016, he's dealt with 4 different quarterbacks, during his time, because he's also had to deal with Chase McDaniel and Josh McCown coming in the games. I feel like if it wasn't for Jason Kelce, this team wouldn't have a Super Bowl. This team wouldn't have 3 straight playoff appearances. I don't think this guy gets enough credit for being the stabilizer of this entire offense.
I think it's fair to say. I think he's going to go down as one of the best offensive linemen in Eagles history. It sounds like a big, bold statement, but him and Jason Peters will. Lane Johnson will. If Brooks continues to play for multiple years, he will be. It's going to be interesting to see who plays in that left guard spot moving forward. But Kelce he's steadfast. He's been there forever. He's an overlooked position, but the center position is the glue to the football team. They touch the football every play. They start the communication on every play. They are the core of the team. How's it built up the middle? Are you built well at center? Are you built well at quarterback? Do you have a strong defensive tackle? Do you have a leader at linebacker? Do you have a leader at safety? Usually if you have all those things, you're going to have a good football team, believe it or not. You got to build a team from the ball out. I'm a firm believer in that. That leads to success, and the Eagles have. They really, really have. They've really invested in that. You saw what they did this offseason going to get Jackson, obviously Fletcher Cox, Bradham's a veteran in the middle, and they've had some young guys step up a linebacker too. So, no, it's a great point, Josh. I'm a big fan of Kelce's game. Obviously a great bloodline and a guy who's tough, a little undersized, but plays very quick, and he really gets the job done from the center position.
All right, I want to get your key for each of these games this weekend. We'll finish with the Eagles at the end, but we'll start with the games today. People can hear them here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 4 p.m. Bills versus Texans. Your key is?
Oh, that's a great point. It's very tough to name one. I think the O-line's better this year for Houston because of the addition of Tunsil. Watt's impact, how does he come back? He may not get the crazy numbers. He did lead the league in pressures through 6 games, but are the double teams going to be on him? It's going to open up other guys. The defensive back does a little better for them. But for me, it comes down to what can Deshaun Watson do? He's been struggling a little of late, but he's healthier now going to the playoffs as the past. But can their big-name guys come through against a pretty good defense in the Bills and an offense for the Bills that's trending the right direction, running the ball, and a quarterback whose arrow's up in Josh Allen?
Tonight, 8:15 kickoff, Titans versus Patriots.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Everyone's all in on the Titans, but I'm not ready to bow out on the Patriots, even though there's so many context clues to saying, you know what, they don't have the talent, or they have the talent, but maybe they don't have the big-name talent they've had. I just think the Patriots – I think the Texans win the first game, and I think the Patriots win. I think it's going to be a clean home sweep this first wild card round of the playoffs. I think New England's got great home field advantage. The weather's not perfect. They've stopped Derrick Henry before. I think they can stop him again. And Tom Brady, I think Edelman's going to have a huge game. So a lot of similarities. Mike Vrabel played for Bill, coached for Bill Belichick. So it's going to be a great game, but I like New England.
Tomorrow, the first game in the afternoon will be Vikings at the Saints.
Yeah, I just think the Saints at home are really, really tough to beat. Drew Brees is playing quietly just so well, even though he's not quietly playing well, but he's still not up there if you want to go down the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Right now, he's probably not in the top 2. I would put him there. He's a stud. He really is. So Drew Brees, Thomas, Kamara's healthy. The offensive line for New Orleans is great. They're under-talked about and not appreciated enough. I like Murray. They're changing the pace back. Defensively, they have some studs at the linebacker position and defensive end position for the Saints. I like the Saints at home.
All right, and then Eagles versus Seahawks. I said earlier in the show, my key for the game is I think the Eagle fans are going to have an impact on this game. What is your key?
That's a great point. I was going to say that too, and that's why I like the home field advantage. I think all these teams have great home field advantage. Houston may be the least, but they have passionate fans. I'm down here now. It's an indoor. I've been to that stadium. It gets very loud. But no, I think the Philly fans, the 12th man in Philly is probably done better this year than the 12th man in Seattle. Seattle's won more on the road than they have at home. We saw that last week against our tough loss. Seattle's good, but really Philly should have beat them the first time. I mean, Philly stayed in that football game when they had no business being in it. They made so many mistakes, and they stayed in the game, and they came down to the last series or so. So I like Philly. I really do. They're trending in the right direction. The underdog thing's back. It's all over the media, and the players really embrace that. So I like Doug Peterson. I like the Eagles. I like Carson Wentz to have a great day and to solidify himself as no questions anymore. no more questioning his talent, his leadership. He's done a great job. I think he finishes off and advances them to the next round.
All right, folks, follow him on Twitter at Colin Thompson TU. The XFL is starting up in just a couple months. I know we'll all be following what's going on with you and the Tampa Bay Vipers. Appreciate you joining me here on a Saturday, and keep up the good work down there.
I love the show, man. Great work, and I'll talk soon.